I recently purchased a Glowforge and it can do some wonderful things. It can cut so many materials, but I really wanted to see how I could incorporate this laser into my jewelry work. So I decided to take a black onyx cab that I had and see if I could engrave on it, because I know that you can engrave on rocks and slate and granite materials. So I just took a black onyx cabochon. Any shape will work. And I figured out how to engrave on it. And it really creates quite the contrast on the stone. So then you can take that finished piece and incorporate it into your jewelry work. So let's get started. The first thing that we'll want to do is to prepare our image for our Glowforge software. I use Silhouette Studio. I do have the business edition, but everything that I'll be doing in here is available in the basic version. So you should be able to do this fine with the free software. I'm locating my image. I wanted a lotus, so I found a lotus image. The particular image that I liked actually has a black background, which I really need a white background, and I need my image to be black. So you want a high contrasting image, and we can resolve this in the software itself. When the image was brought in, it was pretty large, so I'm just resizing the image to something that's more manageable. And I talked about the black background. We can use the inversion feature to change that, to invert from black and white to white and black. And then I'm going to trace the image using the trace feature. I just select it and then select the threshold. I usually bump up the threshold to around 76 or so. I find that that works pretty well with a straight black and white image. And I can zoom in here to make sure that all of the components are properly highlighted so I can see what that trace is going to result in. And I hit my trace button. I can move my original image out of the way. Actually, I can get rid of that original image, and I'm left with my outline. So I'm just going to move this in place. I'm going to actually resize it again. And I want to change the fill color to black. And I also want to change the line color to black. So this image is going to be, actually I'm going to score it on the Onyx. So I want that black or, all one color. The next thing that I need to do is I need to measure the size of my stone. And my particular cabochon is a round cabochon. I know that it is 1.48 inches. And I did measure those with a set of digital calipers so that I can get an accurate size. And the reason that I want to measure that is to resize the image to the correct size, but I also want to cut out a jig so that I can place my stone and get that image centered properly. So I'm just drawing a circle and try to get it the right size. I can go up and use the tools above to set the actual width and height. You want to make sure that's locked so that it doesn't distort the image. So I've got this now at 1.48, and now I can see that it's much smaller than my image. So I'm going to reduce the size of my image so that I can place it inside of the circle. Again, you can use your scale tool to reset the size. And I know this is going to be a little big, but I just want to see how it looks in relation to the circle that I've drawn. And I can zoom in just to get a better idea. And just adjust the image to whatever size you think is the best for your particular stone. You can have it, much smaller, or try and fill as much of it as possible. It's really up to you. So once I have it the size that I would like, then I need to actually center that image inside the circle. So I can select both, go to Object, Align, and Center Middle. So now I've got my image ready to go. You notice that the circle is red, and that's going to indicate that I want to cut, and the image is in black, so that's going to give me a separate operation. And I'm just going to save my image. Since I'm using Silhouette Studio, I'm going to first save it as a Silhouette Studio file so that I have that project on hand if I need it again. And then I'm going to save it again, and this time I'm going to save it as an SVG, and the SVG is what I can use to import it into the Glowforge software. And what's nice about that, it will come in at the exact size that I made it here. All right, let's get the Glowforge powered up. And I want to use just a standard size piece of cardstock to serve as a jig so that I know the exact placement for my cabochon. And when you power this baby up, it goes through its procedures to align the laser and everything, so it'll take a few moments for that to happen. But while we're waiting for that, I'm going to go ahead and place this piece of cardstock in here, and because it's lightweight, I'm going to tape it down so it doesn't go flying around in the Glowforge. So I'll just take a few minutes to position that in place. Anywhere on the bed is fine, but I kind of like to center it just so that I get a more accurate reading from the camera that's actually on the inside of the lid of the Glowforge. So once I get this in place, I'll go back to the software and I will bring in my image and tell it just to cut the circle out of this cardboard. Before I go back to the software, I want to do one other thing. I want to go ahead and mask my stone, and I do this to keep it from leaving scorch marks on the stone, and also so there's no flashback. And I just use blue painter's tape. It works really well, and it is a dome surface, so it can be a little tricky, but you just want to get the tape over the entire surface of that cabochon. So I just start in the middle and kind of push out towards the edge. It will crease on the edges, but I just kind of work that down and try and flatten those creases out to the best of my ability. And once I get that all done, then I will go back and trim around the bottom edge of that stone. Once you get the tape trimmed away, then just go back over it with your fingers, or you can even use like a burnishing tool just to try and get that tape to lay down as best as possible. And this usually takes a little bit of time. We're back at the computer now, and I want to start the Glowforge software. So I just go to my browser, type in app.glowforge.com. And from here, I can upload my image. So I want to go to Create and Upload from File and locate the image that I previously created and saved as an SVG. So I click on that image, tell it to open, and on the right hand side you can see the little dialog box that pops up that tells you it's processing. And once that gets through processing, it's going to show you your Glowforge bed, and it'll have the image, and you just need to place it on over the cardstock that you put into the Glowforge. So we want to ignore that actual lotus, and then the circle I want to set up the cut settings for. So I have already created a custom setting for cardstock. We'll take a look at those settings. Let's see. Let's expand that, and you'll see that the speed is at 500 and the precision power is at 40. And then I'm just going to delete the actual focus height and let it autofocus. I usually like to go ahead and set the focus on the bed, and I can just select where that image is going to be, and it'll take a few moments for the Glowforge to then focus, but it helps with the alignment. A lot of times it's just a step that I like to follow. So we'll give that just a moment to focus. But again, we've ignored the actual lotus image, and we've set the cut settings for the circle, because all I want to do is cut the circle out of the cardstock, because this will serve for placing the stone. And once I'm ready, I just hit the print button, and it's going to calculate how much time it's going to take for your cut to occur in 5 seconds. So it's really fast. And now I need to walk over to the laser and hit that little magic button. It'll be lit up on the laser. Here we are back at the Glowforge, and the dragon's belly is all lit up and flashing, so we just hit that go button and watch her do her magic. Five seconds. Didn't take long at all. And yes, the Glowforge can be pretty loud. I did reduce the noise on the video so you could hear me talking. But now I'm just going to open this up and take out that little plug. It should just lift right out. And there it is. And now I can just place my stone right in that opening, so I know what the placement of the stone should be. But I need to put some tape on the back. I'll just use the same painter's tape that I used to tape down the cardstock and mask the stone. And just cut a piece, fold it over, put on the back of the stone so that it'll hold it down to the bed to keep it from being shifted around, because I want it to stay directly in the center of that circle that I just cut out of that cardstock. So this is a great way to know exactly where to place that stone. So now that it's adhered, then we can go back to the software and tell it to engrave. We're back at the Glowforge software, and we are right where we left off. So now we want to ignore the cut And we want to re-enable the lotus image, but I keep saying engrave, but I really want to score that image. I already have the settings. Speed is 300. I have it at full power. I'm going to reduce that power. I've done this before, and I think I can reduce the power with no issues. So I'm going to try it maybe at 80. I'm going to delete that focus height again so that it auto focuses, and it will figure out the height based on that auto focusing feature. So if I hover over that lotus, it turned green, you saw, and that just shows that it's enabled. And I'm going to set the focus again. Again, this is a step that I like to do, and we'll wait for that to focus on the area that I chose. And sometimes this takes a moment. The camera has to go and take a look at that, set the height. Now, you see that this looks off. Do not move that image. You don't want to move anything because we've placed that circle and we want to keep it exactly where we placed it. I think I'm going to maybe adjust this precision power again. We'll try it at 90. And I'm going to hit that print button, and we can go over to the Glowforge. Once it tells us that it's ready to go, it'll tell us how long it's going to take. So depending on how complex your image is, this can take a bit of time. So it's telling us 4 minutes, 32 seconds. So we're ready to walk back over to the Glowforge and hit that magic button again. And it's go time. So we just press the dragon's belly to get her started. And this time, instead of a cut, it's going to come in and score. So it's just going to leave a mark on the onyx. It can't actually cut through stone, but it can certainly engrave and it can score. So we'll just sit back and watch the magic happen. I've sped up this part of the video so we don't have to sit here and watch it for 4 minutes, but I do apologize for the camera shake and the quick movements. So let's watch it go. The scoring is finished, and we'll wait for that laser head to rehome, and it will shut down. And after that, we can open the lid and take a look and see what results we got. So now we just need to, let's focus. Now we just need to remove that mask to see what our finished product looks like. This is the tedious part. Here's our finished cabochon. Now we can take the masking off. And the outside edge is pretty easy, comes right off. But we still have all of those little bits that are in the center of that lotus. And that's the tricky part. So the easiest way to remove that is to get some duct tape or really strong sticky tape. I have some tape, let me just get it here. And we can use that to help us get all those little pieces. We'll still have to work at it, but it will definitely help. It beats trying to weed every single little piece out. That's some strong tape. Ignore my fingernails. Quarantine, can't get them done. All right, so we've got our piece of tape, super sticky tape, and we just place that over the image and press it down. And it's going to take a couple of tries to get all those little pieces, but when you pull it back, it should bring at least some of them, and you can see it transferred over to the tape. Now we just go back and try and get those individual pieces that are being stubborn. My masking tape stuck pretty good. So just keep working it till you get all the pieces. Once I think I've gotten all the masking tape off, I'll take a used paintbrush to get the debris off of it. I'll also take it over to my sink and wash it under water with a soft brush to also get rid of some of that debris. But look at the contrast. It looks really cool, and it takes a plain stone to something spectacular.